Hi, I'm Rick Anthony, and welcome to the Someone You Should Know podcast, the podcast that focuses on musicians, authors, and interesting people. We like to say we're making a difference one artist at a time. So sit back, have a cold one, and get ready to meet someone you should know. Western swing is the focus of today's podcast episode as I introduce you to a performer who landed his first professional singing gig at the ripe old age of 15. He wound up being in the state finals of the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown twice, the ages of 15 and 16. He's been in local bands in Santa Fe and New Mexico and also Durango, Colorado until he was 21. Now, he's got a couple more miles underneath his wagon wheels, and he's got a brand new album to tell us about. It is called All of Me. Will you please welcome my friend Eric Diamond. Eric, welcome aboard.
Hey, good to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Glad to have you on. Now, many of my older guests say they were watching the Beatles performing on the Ed Sullivan Show in '64, and that was what inspired them to become musicians. What was the catalyst behind you becoming a musician?
Well, honestly, I don't consider myself a musician.
Oh,
although
come on.
I used to play trumpet, and I play a little guitar, but I mostly consider myself a singing cowboy.
A singing cowboy, okay.
I was born in New Mexico, in the mountains of New Mexico, at the base of the Jemez Mountains in a town called Los Alamos. And at a very young age, we started spending part of the year in Colorado. I think my father bought land in a home up there when I was about 14 years old. And we lived in a very small community, beautiful place, truly where they make the postcards, snow-capped mountain peaks and crystal clear rivers and waterfalls and a big lake. The community was built around a lake called Vallecito, and the number one industry there was horses and mules.
Horses and mules, love it.
So, being exposed to all the cowboys and the cowboy way of life, that was probably, what got me started.
How did your early experiences, such as participating in the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown and the Charlie Daniels Country Showdown, shape your musical stylings?
Well, I started singing at a young age, probably the age of 10, in the choir and so forth, and just for my own enjoyment. Mm-hmm. And would sing every opportunity I would get in bars or restaurants, wherever an opportunity arose. And then it just so happened that they were having the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and same with the Charlie Daniels. And so I signed up for both those contests, and that was early on, age 15 and age 16.
Uh-huh. All right, very good. And having the success of that particular thing, it kind of got you going on your way. Then you wound up actually performing in bands and such. You were at, my old stomping grounds of Colorado Springs with the Colorado Swing, and then working as a songwriter in Nashville. Quite a few diverse experiences from the early ages there. How did that translate into you doing Western swing?
Well, like I said, I grew up. A big influence was the cowboys and the working horse ranches and stuff. And there was several bars very close to the home, to my parents' home. And Friday and Saturday nights, we would go dancing, and they would always have a live band. And I started singing, in those clubs. Once people heard me sing, then opportunities came around. I got my first professional paid job at the age of 15. I worked weekend bands for all through school. And then in my early 20s, I was going to college in Colorado Springs. And I was actually singing horseback through Garden of the Gods for a job for 2 years. And a lady heard me. Saw me perform at the Garden of the Gods there, and she made some connections and some phone calls, and next thing you know, I got hired by a band called Cowtown Swing. The band leader was Bobby Francis, who had worked for John Conley during the rose-colored glasses era.
Cool. Awesome.
And I spent 5 years working with that band. We pretty much worked full-time for 5 years, and then I moved to Nashville. Just about like everybody else,
right.
trying to live the dream, chase the dream. And ended up living with several other guys that were all there chasing the music, and several of which had huge success. Win Varble and Gerald Smith, big names in songwriting.
Right, yes.
I was there when Gerald wrote his first song that took, which was every second, every minute, every hour, every day, that went top 10 for Colin Ray. And I'll never forget when Gerald came into the living room one evening. We were all there at 5:30, and he walked in and said, "Hey, check this out." And he had a check for $87,000.
Jeez.
And that was his first royalty check off that song. And then Win, of course, Win was the only one that had an industry job at the time. He was working for a company called Starstruck, which was owned by Reba McEntire. And he was the staff writer. And back in those days, songwriters made about $300 to $350 a week. And they're taking a chance on you that something, hits. And you don't get those jobs if you're not incredibly good,
right?
Which Win and Gerald both were. And now, both those guys have had monster success. They've made huge amounts of money. I Win's on TV all the time. I occasionally catch him on the RFD TV channel.
Wonderful. Awesome.
Pretty neat, because I was the second to the youngest. I was 26 years old. And there was a kid named Mark Randall that was 25. He ended up being an in-house entertainer at Twitty City for Conway Twitty there.
Yes, yeah.
Worked at the Lagarde Quinn Theater. And then he ended up working as a driver for Charlie Daniels, Aaron Tippin, Diamond Rio, Hank Williams Jr. And he and I just somewhat in the last couple of years reconnected. And I'll be seeing him at a music festival in March in Wichita Falls, Texas. So.
Awesome. Very good. Now, the first song we're going to feature is the title cut from your brand new album. It's the jazz standard All of Me, which has been covered by such greats as Louis Armstrong and Billie Holiday and Frank Sinatra and Willie Nelson. Why did you decide to give this song the Eric Diamond treatment?
Well, it was a song I've always loved since I was probably a teenager. When my first road band, Eric Diamond and the Rocky Mountain Playboys, this was after I came back from Nashville. Mm-hmm. We started out as a local band. We had a giant local following. In a very short period of time, we got into 2 agent-only clubs, one in Farmington, New Mexico, one in Ruidoso, New Mexico. The next thing you know, it just snowballed. And by the time it was all said and done, we had 13 national agents booking us, and we were working in an 11-state region.
Jeez, that's nice.
We went town to town, state to state for 6 years. And anyhow, that song, we after several years, we put that song into our repertoire. I always loved it. The last several years, I've been performing with the Western Swing Society of the Southwest. We put that in our live show. I guess this will be the 3rd year we've had it in our live show. And it was definitely a song that I feel like I do fairly well with, one of my stronger songs. And so we decided we wanted to put it on the album.
Matter of fact, it is the title of the album. We're going to hear that right now. It is All of Me from today's guest, Eric Diamond, on the Someone You Should Know podcast.
All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see that I'm no good without you? Take my arms, I would lose them. Take my lips, I'll never use them. Your goodbye left me with eyes that cried, and I know that I am no good without you. You took the part that once was my heart, so why not take all of me? not take all of me? Can't you see that I'm no good without you? Take my arms, I would lose them. Take my lips, I'll never use them. Your goodbye left me with eyes that cried, and I know that I am no good without you. You took the part that once was my heart, so why not take all of me? Sweet darling, why not take all of me?
Nicely done. All of me. Today's podcast guest is Eric Diamond. We're going to have more music from Eric in just a few minutes. But first of all, I'd like to say thank you so much for tuning into the Someone You Should Know podcast. You can find us on the web at someoneyoushouldknowpodcast.com. There you're going to find our recent news, our archive of more than 160 episodes, and a whole lot more. We really truly hope that you are enjoying it. If you are, please leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing, okay? According to Buzzsprout, the service that shares us to all the streaming platforms, man, we are so incredibly blessed. Thank you so very much. We are heard in over 2,100 cities in 85 countries around the world. And a salute a couple new ones: Galesburg, Illinois, Ashburn, Virginia, Clinton, North Carolina, and Wolverhampton in the United Kingdom. Someone You Should Know podcast heard wherever quality streaming audio is available. We're speaking right now with Eric Diamond, Western swing star. Now, Eric, you are the second Western swing star I've had in the last couple of months, and the one that I had before that is a friend of yours. It is Mae McCoy and her Neon Stars. What makes Western swing, Eric?
Well, Western swing was created by a gentleman named Bob Wills. He is in the Country Music Hall of Fame. He is also in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And the music began out in the plains of West Texas. The cattle ranchers and the cotton farmers, they would have barn dances every weekend at someone's barn, and they would bring the fiddles and the guitars and the mandolins, and they would have a big dance. And Bob traveled throughout the United States, and he took influences from many different forms of music. He took the blues, he took jazz. Matter of fact, Western swing is all jazz chording. And then he got Cajun influence and influence from Mexico, south of the border, and he mixed it all into this incredible dance music known as Western swing.
Jeez.
Asleep at the Wheel is probably the forerunner for internationally for Western swing music. Mm-hmm. They've won Grammys and have had gold and platinum albums. There are many great Western swing artists, especially in the state of Texas. It's just an incredible music. For many people don't know the difference between, they'll hear Western swing and they just classify it as traditional country music, mm-hmm. or back before there was even they differentiated, it was just country music. But I fell in love with it, not realizing it was Western swing. Just the songs would always be my favorite songs because you couldn't keep your foot still or your head from bobbing and mm-hmm. dancing around. And then at a young age, I was formally introduced to Western swing by a state champion fiddle player named Jeff Johnson from Oklahoma that was with a major record label back in the 80s. And I've been hooked ever since.
Very good, very good. Now, you mentioned to me that you know Mae McCoy over there in Sacramento, and you have a special honor coming up a little bit later this year. Why don't you share that with our audience?
Yeah, this is a really pleasant surprise, and it's something at one point I would have never even imagined possible. But I was notified that I am being inducted into the Western Swing Hall of Fame in Sacramento, California, October of this year. So I'm very excited about that. 2 weeks ago, I also received notice that I'm winning the Heroes Award of Western Swing in the state of Texas by the Cowtown Society of Western Music, and I'll be receiving a certificate and a medallion from Governor Abbott. So really excited about that. It's been an amazing year. The new album is doing extremely well. The old album finished tied for second for Album of the Year by the Academy of Western Artists in 2022. And I ended up winning the Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year by the Academy, which changed my life. 8 days later, I had 2 Nashville record labels ready to sign me and a third label that was talking to me. I committed to Clarksville Creative Sound primarily because of the producer, Kurt Ryle, who had produced artists like Gene Watson, Mel Tillis, Vern Gosdin, Trisha Yearwood, Leanne Womack, Billy Ray Cyrus, Dean Dillon, etc. We recorded the new album, Eric Diamond, All of Me. We did the world premiere radio release on May 13th with KSSL Radio out of Lubbock, Texas, which broadcast 8 times in 6 different countries. And then on May 15th, we released it to all worldwide radio. This past October, I was notified that I have the most played Western Swing album on radio in the world. We're up for 2 Ameripolitan Awards. We're up for 6 ISSA Awards, which is the International Singer-Songwriter Association in Atlanta, Georgia. We're up for 5 awards at the Red Carpet Awards in the Netherlands. We finished in the top 5 for Cowboy Swing Album of the Year with the IWMA, which is the International Western Music Association. So it's been an incredible year for accolades and awards. It's kind of strange at this age that everybody's like, aren't you happy? And I'm like, well, I've been in this game for 43 years. I am thrilled. I am honored with all the nominations and with the awards, especially being inducted into the Hall of Fame. That means everything to me. But my biggest concern is I just want to be put to work. I just want to get me out there full time again on the road and let me make you some money,
Absolutely. This guy is so humble. Look at this. Success hasn't spoiled him. Take that, Beyonce. There you go, Eric. Awesome. Now, you just mentioned you've been touring for, 43 years? Is that right?
Well, I've been in the business for 43 years. The first, 10 years was playing weekend bars, the occasional Wednesday night, the occasional Sunday afternoon house band job. We'd do some fairs and rodeos and weddings and whatnot. I went on the road full time in my early 20s after I graduated from college with Cowtown Swing. Did that for 5 years, moved to Nashville, ended up landing a songwriting deal with Ronnie Stoneman from the television show Hee Haw, which that's a whole nother long story in itself. But that was very short-lived. And I really, even though I've written some songs, I don't consider myself a songwriter like Win Varble or Gerald Smith. I mean, those guys are top of the line. I was fortunate to be able to write some songs with Kurt Ryle, who has written a number 1 song for George Jones and for other artists. But mostly I consider myself just a singing cowboy and a live performance guy. Awesome. There's no place I'd rather be than on stage performing to a live audience.
In those 43 years, you've done your share of load-ins and load-outs, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, then when Eric Diamond and the Rocky Mountain Playboys, like I said earlier, we had 13 national agents booking us, and we worked an 11-state region. I looked at one of our calendars recently. We did our longest run was 39 weeks in a row without a week off. And in 6 years, we had very few weeks off. We worked all the time, but we needed to do that. I mean, I wanted to be out there trying to win one heart at a time, doing it the old-fashioned way. This was before Facebook or TikTok or any of that. It was doing it the old-fashioned way and winning one heart at a time.
Absolutely,
Word of mouth. I wanted to play anywhere and everywhere that we possibly could. Plus, if we worked all the time, it was easy to keep the musicians happy because as long as you were putting money in their pocket every week, they were
very happy. Very good. Now, the next feature is called Tales from the Road. These are those infamous road stories where things didn't go quite as planned. And I'm guessing in all those years of touring and doing load-ins and load-outs, something might not have gone as planned. So, Eric, what would you say would be your Tales from the Road, your Spinal Tap moment?
Well, I've got a lot of stories, good and bad, and fantastic from the road, just phenomenal memories. But one funny story I'll tell you. It was the middle of winter, and we've been on the road for, 7 or 9 weeks. And we were supposed to be doing a tour in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama. We were actually playing in Hobbs, New Mexico, and the following week we were going to be headed to the Southeast. Well, there was a change in schedule. The agents called us up, and next thing you know, we're headed to North Dakota and Minnesota in the middle of winter. So we headed out, and I think we performed in Grand Junction, Colorado for a week, and then we were headed to North Dakota and then up to the Canadian border. And we played at one job at Otter Tail, Minnesota for the Pepsi Cola Corporation. Did a big one-night deal for Pepsi Cola, and then we went up and played a week for a resort on Lake of the Woods called the Wigwam, right there at the Canadian border. And that's why I'm bringing this story up. So we're all loaded in, we're set up, it's opening night, and it's a farmers convention. So the audience was entirely male. There were 2 females in the entire joint. One was the bar manager, and the other was the waitress. And so I turned to my bass player, Mel Travis. I turned to Mel and I said, "No love song this week." And we played to an all-male. We played to an all-male audience for 5 nights in a row.
No love songs.
But they liked us, and it went over well, and we got paid. It was definitely strange because we were always used to playing, to a dancing audience.
Yeah.
There was not a lot of dancing going on.
Yeah. If there was, it was Brokeback Mountain, Let's talk about the best way people can find out what's going on, where you're going to be touring this year. Let's talk about your social media. Where can people find out more information about Eric Diamond?
Well, right now, I just recently left Clarksville Creative Sound, the record label I was with. I've been in negotiations with 3 new record labels. Matter of fact, I have a meeting with one tomorrow. But currently, the best way is Facebook. Okay. You can follow me on Facebook. You can send me a friend request. We are saving a lot of spots for industry people, but you can certainly follow us on Facebook. Pretty much every month we'll be doing 1 to 2 festivals, hopefully with this new record label. They're talking about using me in Branson, also
that would be
PBR
wonderful.
And the PRCA shows. And the state fair circuit. So,
awesome. Wonderful. Jeez,
we will keep everybody updated on Facebook. And once I've committed to a new label, I'm sure they will have things on TikTok.
And websites and such like that. Yeah.
And we do. Yes. Yep. Awesome. We have a website which Caden Gordon runs for me.
Awesome. Very good. Well, we'll make sure we put that down in the social link. So if you're missing anything, folks, you want to follow exactly where some great Western swing music is available, make sure you hit down in the show notes and find out exactly where Eric Diamond is going to be on tour this summer. All right. Final song we're going to feature is Oklahoma Bound, because I imagine at some point you're going to be heading to Oklahoma this summer. What's the story on Oklahoma Bound?
Yeah, we will be playing in Oklahoma. In July, we'll be playing at the Western Swing Hall of Fame induction in Lawton, Oklahoma. I've performed at that event this will be my 9th year. And then later on in the year, we'll be performing in Wagner, Oklahoma at Sequoia State Park. And then we may end up several other places as well. But the song Oklahoma Bound was the first song that Kurt Ryle and I wrote together. He said, "Eric, I want to write a song about Oklahoma," which was his home state where he was born. And he came up with the title Oklahoma Bound. We wrote this song in less than 15 minutes. He wrote a line, I wrote a line, he wrote a line, and it just came together like that.
It's a great song. Yeah. It's a great song. Really
well
nice.
On radio. I'm really proud of how this song turned out. They love it in Oklahoma, that's for sure.
I can imagine. It's a great song. As a matter of fact, we're going to close the show with that. And Eric, I thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And I hope everyone gets a chance to see you at some point this summer. It'd be great, somewhere on the fair circuit or somewhere near that Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. We'll be performing in Texas, Oklahoma, and Missouri for sure. I'll be performing 3 days in Springfield, Missouri, and then I'll be shooting a television show, the Krusty Bucket country music show.
Love it.
In Missouri. And who knows, we may end up doing some stuff in Branson, knock on wood.
All right. Very good. Eric, thanks for being a guest on the show, man. We really loved having you.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
I spent a year one night in New York City. I tried to find a girl to dance with me, but I couldn't find a bar with country music. So I headed down to Nashville, Tennessee. I spent a lot of time down on Broadway. The music from those bars was country gold. The girls there were fine, but not the Tulsa kind. Oklahoma's calling me home. I'm Oklahoma bound, where Bob Wills music can be found, where two-step is the thing, they still love their western swing. I'm Oklahoma bound. The ladies there still love a dancing cowboy. At closing time, they're up for having fun. If you want to stand a chance, you best know how to dance. I'm a rug-cutting son of a gun. I'm Oklahoma bound, where Bob Wills music can be found, where two-step is the thing, they still love their western swing. I'm Oklahoma bound. I'm Oklahoma bound, where Bob Wills music can be found, where two-step is the thing, they still love their western swing. I'm Oklahoma bound. I'm Oklahoma bound.
Hi, this is Rick Anthony, thanking you again for listening to this episode of Someone You Should Know. Now, if you're an aspiring musician or an established musician that's looking for a little exposure, I invite you to drop us a line at Someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. That's Someoneyoushouldknowpodcast@gmail.com. Also, I invite you to tell a friend about the Someone You Should Know podcast. I thank you for tuning in this time, and I invite you to check us out next time on the Someone You Should Know podcast, because you never know who's going to show up. Until next time, remember, God loves you, and so do I.